Hello, it's Mrs. Glasson. As I've said to some of my students in our one-to-one Zoom sessions, I'm going to be posting a short video about each of the lessons in the 11 Plus Foundation course. Now, this is about lesson 1, which is of course one of the free lessons. But I thought that I would post about 1 and 2, which are the free lessons, which you can try out by clicking on the link below, also so that you can see the lessons sequentially and how they relate to each other. So, lesson 1 is my introduction to grammar and vocabulary. And, sorry Dante, in case any of you are wondering who that lovely man was on the front and whom the lovely man is that I have been posting about when I've talked about grammar, I will tell you in a second when I actually go on to talk about grammar. But first, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the pre-lesson research, which, as you know, you will have for each and every lesson. I start by talking about reading, one of my favourite subjects and something that's really, really important when you are an English student. And so you do your research, and then I talk a little bit about why reading is so important to me and why reading is so important to students also. The next thing also is the grammar itself. So you will have come to the lesson prepared. You will know all about the different types of noun. And also, I think that you will probably know about most of the grammar. But there he is. He is, of course, Michael Swan, author of this wonderful book, Practical English Usage by Michael Swan. I first bought this in 1990 when I became a teacher. That's 10 years after its publication. But it really does contain everything that you need to be able to teach English grammar. I bought it because I was off to Japan to teach English as a foreign language there. I mentioned that grammar is integral to my teaching, but also that it's integral to our study of English. Why is it important? Well, grammar provides the components for English, all the little bits that go together to make this wonderful language of ours. And that's why lesson 1 is so important. I cover all of the grammatical points that you will need to make a really good start to my course. But I don't just teach them to 11 plus students. I don't just teach grammar to year 4 and 5. I teach grammar to everybody that I teach, from year 4 up to year 13. There's nothing I love more than to teach grammar, apart from vocabulary, creative writing and comprehension, of course. So lesson 1 is really important. I will give you many grammatical terms or word classes or parts of speech, and they are all parts of speech that are covered by the Key Stage 2 National Curriculum for English. But as always for the 11 Plus, and when I'm extending Key Stage 2 skills, I kind of pitch it at Key Stage 2.5. So during the course of lesson 1, lesson 2 and up to lesson 10 and going forwards, you will learn many grammatical terms. And one of the things that you notice that I really like to do is to link those terms to your creative writing. So some of the feedback that I have received actually mentions the grammar that you have learnt in lesson 1. And a couple of times I've heard that you've learnt more grammar in lesson 1 than you ever knew. So what are the grammatical terms that I teach in lesson 1? Here are some of them. So some of them include interjections. Nouns, of course, as part of your wonderful pre-lesson research, you come equipped with the 4 main types of nouns. Indefinite and definite articles, pronouns, possessive adjectives, possessive pronouns, etc., etc. And also infinitives and infinitive markers. Now, just to take a couple of examples, I know that possessive adjectives and definite and indefinite articles are classed as determiners, which I teach later on in a few lessons' time. But it's important to me to actually specify them so that you learn the full range. And also, not all of the pronouns are classed as determiners. So just a couple of examples then. When I talk about creative writing, I do talk about how you might suggest that a character is particularly egotistical. And that's, of course, a word that you learn in lesson 2 when you're describing that hare in Aesop's fable in that wonderful polysemic text. And so, for example, this whole idea of the repetition of the possessive adjective, this is my book, this is my class, this is my idea. I was actually thinking also of Telemachus by Tennyson. I don't know if you know the poem, when the protagonist's repetition of the possessive adjective and also of the pronoun, the possessive pronoun mine, connotes his egotistical character. And also with the articles, the indefinite and the definite, yes, they are determiners, as I mentioned before, but I want children to know those terms. So later on, perhaps when we're thinking about comprehension, or we're making inferences for comprehension, or we're thinking about our creative writing, I can actually refer to those terms and talk about this whole idea of being general and being specific. The other thing also, as you can see in lesson 1, I do actually define grammar to your children, and they write that definition down in their lesson notes. I think that's really important because obviously it's a term that is bandied about, but we need to make sure that children actually understand what it means. And as I said, the grammatical terms that I teach in Lesson 1, they do come from the National Curriculum for English at Key Stage 2. But as I said, I always pitch my teaching at Key Stage 2.5. Now, my extensive experience of working in grammar schools as a teacher, and also through my experience as a mother, I know that the children who get into grammar schools are usually the top of their year. So I'm talking about English, of course, but also for maths. And so extension is key. And that's also very integral to extending children just generally for their English, because there are children who are actually taking my course. I've been talking to them this week who aren't taking the 11 plus. They just want to consolidate and extend their Key Stage 2 skills. And a couple of them are also on their way to secondary school next year, and they just want that extra confidence boost. So you can see how I teach grammar, how I introduce it, and then later on in the course, how I contextualize it also, and how your children get to practice. And you'll see at the end of lesson 1, that parts of speech exercise, that's the first time your child will be doing that. But that kind of exercise proliferates throughout my course and throughout my teaching. So when I later on teach grammar through literature, which is what most English teachers do, I always like to include one of those parts of speech exercises so that they learn grammar, but also it's a way of contextualizing the learning that's about to take place. And the person who's really good at teaching English grammar, of course, is Michael Swan. And I do love to watch his videos, and my children are always laughing at me because I do love to watch his videos and read some of the things that he's written. And I fully subscribe to his XXX way of teaching grammar. And that is explanation, example, and exercises. But you can see how I do that during the course of the foundation course. But again, it's not something that's new to the 11 plus or to my Key Stage 2 extension. It's something that proliferates throughout my teaching, wherever I have taught, in whichever school. So it's not anything that's new to me, but it might be new to some of you. So this whole idea that grammar is integral to the teaching of English. And now when children are in Key Stage 2, but let me just show you this also. As I said, I always relate what I'm teaching to creative writing and to comprehension. And so you being able to use grammatical structures effectively is assessed as part of creative writing. And so it's particularly important that children are aware of the grammar that they are using, aware of the possible effects of the grammar on a reader. And as someone who's been doing it for a very long time, I can say that it's a lot easier to teach creative writing to children who know grammar. And also anyone that's ever been taught literary analysis by me, so at Key Stages 3, 4 and 5, you know that you need to know your grammar, because you know what I always say, the use of the word is wasted in literary analysis. Subject terminology, it's mentioned in the mark scheme. You need to showcase your subject terminology, so use the correct grammatical term. And so I hope I've managed to explain to you how important grammar is, and also shown you just how much I love to teach it. What about the rest of lesson 1? Well, I talked about the reading part, but also, as always, I teach some fabulous vocabulary, and that's another thing that everybody has mentioned about my teaching, and certainly anyone that's taken lesson 1 has mentioned this amazing vocabulary that your children have been apparently enthralled by, and also the way that I teach it, because as you know, anybody can give children lists of words. That's not teaching. And if you want to find out a little bit more about how I love to teach vocabulary, there's another video that you can see that's going to start at the end of this video, which actually focuses a little bit more on my vocabulary teaching. But in this lesson, I show the children that just by reading a couple of pages of A Christmas Carol, you can learn all of these wonderful words. So I talk about how parsimonious Scrooge is, how cantankerous he is, the obstreperous manner with which he charges at those poor carol singers, and how he thinks that Bob Cratchit is fatuous, and also that he kind of thinks of Fred's attitude to Christmas as being rather nefarious. Why is he so jolly? And why is Bob Cratchit so jolly? So they're just a few of the words that your child will learn. And I did ask the children when we were doing our one-to-one Zoom sessions, did you find it too complicated? And they said, no, we loved the vocabulary and we understand it. And somebody actually said to me yesterday, I love the way that you managed to explain those words in such a simple way. And the wonderful thing is that by the end of the lesson, your child will know all of these parts of speech and be able to use them effectively. And so if you'd like to find out more about my teaching of grammar, then immediately go to the link below, click on it and try the 2 free lessons. And hopefully you will also agree that I'm a very enthusiastic English teacher. I'm very, very happy to teach your child grammar and comprehension and vocabulary and creative writing. And you can also see how much I love teaching these parts of speech and how I love to indulge my passion for Michael Swan. So please click on the link below or go to www.mrsglasson.com. You can also go to my Facebook page and look at my Facebook posts on lovely grammar. So I look forward to seeing you very soon. Thank you.